Ito ang Oragon Internet Television. Maaasahan sa Balance News in Public Affairs, Education, Music and Information gamit ang makabagong teknolohiya sa pamamahayag. Maaasahan sa katotohanan, kaagapay ng mamamayan sa pagkikipag-ugnayan sa pamahalaan. Oragon Internet Television Broadcasting.
Work in an atmosphere where there is also the prevalence of fear, and the fear is real. It's not just fear of illness, it's the fear of death, which also occupies the minds of our parents and those who are involved in education. Kaya ito yung mga challenges, but we have endeavored to deal as quickly as we can. Kaya mahalaga yung accurate na information so we can respond as quickly. Mahalaga yung consultation. So we are always consulting with our partners and taking their opinions, taking their advice. Sa health, we dare not make any declarations without consulting the Department of Health and the health experts, especially where the children are concerned. Now, also on the matter of the environment, ay mahalaga yan. Hindi natin napipredict kung saan lalanding yung mga natural disasters, pero may implication yan sa use ng materials natin, especially if you are dependent, for example, on paper or printed material. And this is why one of our goals is really to reduce dependency on printed material, because we will be exacerbating the phenomenon of floods and trees because of the requirement for wood and all the others. I've said it again and again. Those of you who have listened to our presentations, that printed material is the most expensive of all the materials used for learning. So we have to lessen such a dependency. But then connectivity is a problem which is not also within our control. So itong mga bagay na ito are challenges which we have to be facing, not just on an 8 to 5 basis bonds. It's really 24 hours. A flood does not announce itself during office hours, or a volcanic eruption, or a political event, or an economic disaster does not conform to your usual office hours. And so this is very challenging, and at the same time very exciting, because we know and we try to recognize what we are up against. And with the help of all our partners who have shared what they are doing for us today, and also the cooperation of parents, of children, and our teachers, we cope as best as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. Indeed, it is a joint effort, and DepEd continuously seeks and finds ways to be innovative and creative in order for learning to continue. Maraming salamat, Secretary. For the next question, and maybe we can also ask the same question to you, Sec-An, maya-maya po. How did DepEd prepare financially for the school opening this school year 2021 to 2022?
Tayo.
Yes, Secretary? Financial preparations of DepEd po.
Secretary or Yusek?
Would you want to answer, Secretary, or should we call on Yusek Ann?
On this matter, I was anticipating that Yusek Ann will be happy and pleased to give you the details of our financial preparations. Of course, we had to make adjustments, because if you will recall, budgets are planned 1 year ahead. Like now, we are presenting our budget by tomorrow to Congress. This is for 2022. And we try to anticipate events as accurately as we can. And so there were there were events which we did not anticipate and to which we have to make adjustments for, and for which we have to seek the approval of our regulatory agencies, particularly the Department of Budget and Management, and even perhaps the Civil Service Commission. So again, one, we have the budget to guide us, because we don't do things outside of the budget, what is provided for in the budget. But if you want to make adjustments in the budget, we seek the permission of a higher authority or regulatory body like the Department of Budget and Management. 3, at the national level, plans and responses are also decided upon which have budgetary implications. Lahat na decisions ng government, and all of you know this, you know this, those of you who are even in other institutions, any policy decision always has financial implications. And so any change, any development has to have corresponding responses. But what we need to do, because we are government, we have to seek the approval of government institutions like DBM, and if necessary, the President himself. I'm sorry I did not answer immediately. I thought Yusek Ann would be called upon. Sorry for that.
Yes, ayan po, si Yusek Annalyn Sevilla all the way from SDO Makati ata. Hello, Yusek.
Yes, Director Nina, nandito pa rin tayo sa Fort Bonifacio High School. And magandang tanghali po sa inyo lahat, Secretary Liling, sa lahat po ng mga nakikinig at nanonood sa atin. Nag-prepare po tayo sa ikalawang taon ng new normal ng ating blended learning. Ngayon po ay bago nag-start ang ating pong pag-open ngayon, September 13, nakapag-download na po tayo or nai-release na natin ang additional MOE na 3.7 billion para sa mga eskwelahan. Yan po ay additional. Meron na silang regular budget, 3.7 billion ay additional po para makapaghanda tayo ngayong September hanggang December ang validity ng 3.7 billion na yan. Also, ay nagbigay na rin po ng instruction si Secretary maaga. Hindi natin inintay itong September 13. Nagbigay na po ng instruction ang ating kalihim na ibigay ang 5,000 pesos na cash allowance. Last year, yan ay 3,500. Ngayon ay 5,000 pesos para sa ating mga guro. At ikatlo, yung pong 5.3 billion na pang production, delivery, and distribution ng ating self-learning module ay naibigay din po yan ng maaga para mapaghandaan itong pag-prepare natin ng mga self-learning modules. So yung tatlong pong yan, hindi po natin nagawa last year kasi last year ay isang emergency. But for this school year, maaga po nating ibinigay lahat yan. Additional MOE, cash allowance, at saka funding for the production of our self-learning modules. Salamat po.
Thank you, Yusek Ann. Maraming salamat din po, Secretary. We'll proceed with our next question. For our next question, wala naman po ito kay Claudette Moconseriaco ng Business Mirror. Next question po is, how many schools have yet to receive printed self-learning modules? We can address this to the Secretary, and then after po, we can have additional inputs from Yusek Diosdado San Antonio.
Dina, Yusek Dads can very easily answer that question. So I would like to give that opportunity to him, and because we have been anticipating this problem for some time now in the light of earlier experiences. Yusek Dads.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Liling. Good afternoon, everyone. Totoo po yan na ang self-learning modules ay talaga pong gagamitin pa rin natin ngayong pasukang 2021-2022. At ang mga ginawa po nating paraan para masiguro na better version ng self-learning modules ang gagamitin ng mga bata, nagsagawa po tayo ng second round of quality assurance sa mga self-learning modules na ito. Pumapayag pa rin po tayo ng combination ng central office and locally quality assured learning materials at na-convert po ang mga ito sa iba-ibang formats, lalo na yung gagamitin sa DepEd TV at sa DepEd radio-based instruction, papayagan po natin at ang basihan po ay ang ating mga self-learning modules. Gusto rin po nating bigyang diin na ang mga regional directors, nabanggit na yata ito ng iba kanina habang sila ay nag-uulat, ay nagsusumikap na mag-migrate po tayo sa less dependence on printed self-learning modules at i-maximize po natin ang paggamit ng mga gadgets na napapamigay ng ating mga partners particularly. At alam ko po sa kagawaran mismo ng edukasyon sa loob nito, nagkaroon po din tayo ng mga adjustments para magamit din ng mga kasamang guro. Yung pong mga computers na dapat ay nasa school pero kung karamihan sa kanila ay komportable na ito ay gamitin sa work from home mode ay nag-issue po ang si USEC Alain ng guidelines na ito ay kailangan payagan din. So marami po tayong ni-relax, marami tayong adjustments at talaga po ang purpose natin ay mas maging mabuti ang kalidad ng mga self-learning materials. Nakipag-ugnayan po tayo sa Philippine Normal University at yung pong error ones ay active pa rin po yun. Palagi po natin sinasabi na kahit po noong nakalipas na pasukan, malaki po ang improvement sa mga adjustments natin sa quality assurance protocols. Kasi po noong Oktobre hanggang Disyembre, 3 buwan lang, sobrang 100 yung mga errors na na-validate. Pero po simula Enero hanggang Hulyo, bago natapos po ang pasukan, ay hindi na umabot ng kalahati nung nakita sa first 3 months ng ating pasukan. Salamat po.
Thank you very much, Yusek Dads. For the next question po, Secretary, this is a question still from Claudette Seriaco. May we get your reaction to the pronouncement made by a teachers group, which is Teachers Dignity Coalition, that DepEd is not yet ready for class opening, that they also expressed the fear that the coming school year might be just a repeat of the previous school year, noting that after a year, many students and their families still cannot keep up with the online requirement of distance learning.
Mahirap magsabi yung sinasabi natin na what is the state of readiness? When is one ready for whatever activity there is? It's like asking, are you ready to get married? You're already getting married tomorrow, but you still ask yourself, are you ready? And we are as ready can be within the availability of information, within the expertise which we have access to. And we have learned. It's not as if we'll repeat again and again and again the same situations which we had to contend with last year. And we have learned from this. For example, this debate about academic freeze and then the academic ease, we have responded to the call of even our students for academic ease in terms of deadlines for submission of work and reducing requirements, etc., rather than academic freeze, as the choice would have been to close schools. And also to note that we are not learning from the experience, because last year was the first time we have no benchmark at all. We never had COVID before. We never had the extent of the damage to our environment. We did not have the unpredictability and the impact of what was happening in other countries to enter our country. We didn't have the information at that time on the capacities of not only our education system, but our health system and our economy to be able to adjust to all these problems. But let's talk about readiness. We're very proud, for example, that for grade 6 during the past academic year, 98.13% of our students graduated, which is an indication that they may not, that they were successful, no? Our grade 10 learners did very well as well, 96.9%. And our grade 11 learners made it at 97.2% of our graduating classes, which is an indication that the learners are responding to the new strategies, the new methods, the adjustments that we had to do. So as for the online requirement of distance learning, you have heard a while ago the assurance of the ICT that they are doing everything to help out with the communications aspect, and also we have the assurance of our partners, business partners, who are helping as much as we can. We are developing not only television but radio, and I really find it delightful to watch little children talking on the walkie-talkie to their teachers and consulting them on various lessons. So we have learned and we are responding. But at the same time, we are also anticipating, because we see, and we have a future study group as well, we see the direction of society. We see the direction of education and the need for our learners to be able to adjust to the kind of world that they will be joining later on. So I'd like to assure everyone that it will not be a repeat of last year, because events do not necessarily repeat themselves. Everything is changing. Those of you, you will notice that I'm very fond of quoting books, and I'm fond of quoting great films. You will remember Game of Thrones. You will remember Lord of the Rings, when Galadriel said, "I see change. I see it in the water. I see it in the sun." That the change is coming and we have to prepare for change. And this is what we have tried to do. So there will be no repetition of the experiences that we had and the challenges that we had during the past academic year, in spite of the fact that we were very successful in handling them, if you look at the graduation figures. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary. We'll proceed po with the next question. The series of questions will be from Ara Perez of ABS-CBN. You can answer this question po, and then we can have additional inputs from USEC dads. For the first one po, how will you compare distance learning this school year and last year? What are the similarities and the differences?
Well, in terms of, we learned a lot of lessons when we started distance learning. One, we are supported by leading members of Congress. There are several bills already seeking to put into law the distance learning approach in times like this time, in times like this. That's very biblical. And so I would say that there are differences, but there are also similarities. And the similarities are unpredictability. That is a similarity. You cannot predict everything, even if we like to equip ourselves with the capacities of fortune tellers. We have a future study group peering into the future. We have students, we have experts, we talk to them, we ask them, what do they see? What should our children learn? Should they continue and remain faithful to our multiplication tables, to our formulae? But you listen to Galadriel. Galadriel says everything is changing. The water, the sun, the mountains, everything is changing. And humans are also changing. There is talk about robot teachers, about brain implants, and so on and so forth. So we look at all these possibilities because we have to prepare our children for this. Then you have the challenge also of mental health. Preparing our children that when they go out into the world, it will not be the same world that they are used to or which they expect. We have to prepare them for change. And as one great philosopher said, there is nothing permanent. The only permanent thing is change. Change is permanent. We have to discern it. We have to adjust to it. We have to learn from it. Thank you. Perhaps Yusek Nepo would like to add to this because he is very involved with future studies, dads in curriculum and so on. It's not as if we are just sitting and watching the world go by. We help make that world. We help mold our children, and we are concerned not only with their teaching them facts or memorizing tables and formulae, but really developing critical thinking. Thank you.
Thank you, Secretary. May we call on Yusek Dats for additional inputs?
Thank you very much, Director Nina. Thank you, Ma'am Liding. Of course, there would be similarities. I guess it's very clear that the policy articulated by Secretary Liding that we have to empower our fellow teachers, principals, superintendents in contextualizing actions to be taken to address the challenges faced by our fellow teachers and fellow school leaders in the field will be the same. They will be again empowered and be given the chance to really address those concerns. Second, I know that the now mode of learning would still be essentially home-based. So it would be similar. The parents will again be more active in facilitating learning of their children at home. They will have to really provide support or find ways of employing the learning support aids or other perhaps elder siblings to really make sure that the children are provided support. The difference is, as already mentioned by Mom, change is really permanent. It takes, it happens all the time. What I see is a more aggressive effort in adapting the good practices we have discovered while implementing multiple distance learning delivery modalities during the previous school year. My favorite example is what we noted that integrative assessment, cross-curricular integrative assessment is something that could be done at the school level, and many are telling me that they want to do this in implementing the learning continuity plan for school year 2021-2022. And what's the impact as demonstrated in the previous school year when we allow the practice of integrative assessment, we actually in effect also implement academic ease, because instead of the learners doing 8 outputs for a particular period of time during the grading period, the learners are now challenged to work on one holistic, integrated assessment task that allow them to actually demonstrate competence in the different learning areas. And there are a lot more good practices, best practices that our regions, our division officers are sharing, which actually would inspire the others looking for better ways of doing things to also implement them. Thank you, Director Nina.
Thank you very much for that supplemental information, Yusek Dads. Thank you, then, Secretary. And we'll proceed to the next question. This question po, we can address to the Secretary, and then we can also have additional inputs from Yusek Nepomuceno Malaluan afterwards. The question po is, are you satisfied with the enrollment figures this school year, comparing it to last year's figures? Secretary?
Our present figures as of today is a total of 24,603,822 students, not including plus 198,297 who are enrolled in the arts programs. We still have to hear from the Philippine schools overseas. We have significant enrollment in various countries abroad because, as you are well aware, we have Philippine schools in different countries, especially in the Middle East, and we are waiting for the numbers. But right now, and the question is, are we satisfied with the enrollment figures? In the light of the terrors of UK variant, in the light of the fears of the Delta variant, in the light of the nightmares of a possible new variant, to have 24 million learners and their parents allowing their children to go back to school, that is something. This is about 93% of last year's enrollment. And we expect more to enroll because we usually allow late enrollment this time up to the end of the month. And when the final numbers come in, we are confident that we'll be able to match last year's enrollment, plus in spite of the fact that the challenges are different this time. The debates are different this time. The political environment is different this time. The economy is different this time. When we talk political environment, it's not only the Philippines, but we look at Southeast Asia. What is happening in Malaysia? What is happening in Indonesia? What is happening in Singapore? What is their version, for example, of face-to-face? By the way, the notion that we had, especially at my tender age of 81 years old, I'm going to be 81 soon, is that children spend more of our notion of face-to-face is that children spend most of their time facing each other in school. But the different countries have developed different versions of face-to-face. And in one country which I know, the children are not necessarily encouraged to be running around the campus chasing each other. There are very specific rules as to how they should behave in face-to-face. And also they don't have it every day, maybe twice a week, maybe once a week, and very carefully regulated situations. So even face-to-face is changing.